Welcome to the first episode of Drop It Like It's Scott, your questions answered. So what we do here is we take questions from our community and we answer them here in this podcast style show. So if you're not familiar with the Monetized Life community, it's a community that we started on Skool where we teach people how to monetize your skills, interests, and passions. We do that with a 5-day challenge. So we set you up with a structure to do that in less than a week. And within the community of, I guess we're just over 170 people now, we take questions weekly, and then I'll be doing a show just like this one. So without further ado, what are this week's questions? So question number 1. What strategies have you found most effective for engaging your audience and growing your follower base? So this is a big question. This is a question that we could go in a lot of different directions with. I think today we are going to do it. I'm guessing that the person that asked this question is asking from a perspective of building an audience on TikTok. I have been spending a lot of time on TikTok Live up until about 3 weeks ago where I got sick. You might be able to hear it in my voice still. But I have learned quite a bit in the amount of time I've spent on TikTok Live. In a matter of, I want to say it was about 2.5 weeks, I spent about 100 hours testing, exploring, playing with TikTok Live. And some of the strategies that I've found most effective for engaging an audience on TikTok Live, I like to call it make them the star of the show. Okay. So if I start up a TikTok Live session, I usually pay attention for the whole session, but I really pay close attention to the first 5 to 10 minutes of that TikTok Live session. And I'll pick out anywhere from 3 to 5 people who start engaging with me, and I'll try to build a story around them. Okay, so where are you from? What are you doing here? What questions do you have? You know, if they, there's usually little triggers I can tell, even by their profile photo, or if I click on their account and can kind of see, do they have no following? Do they have some following? Do they have 50,000 people following them? What are you guys here for? What questions do you have? And you start to kind of formulate a bit of a picture of who these 3 to 5 people in the room are, and you start to make them the star of your show. So they're usually coming to you asking questions. You're typically teaching a how-to, a tutorial on a specific subject, and let them be the star of the show. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that during this response, but make them the star of your show. So make them the people that the rest of the room wants to follow. So pull their story out of them. So for example, I got to know one person that would show up in my lives. Her name was Darcy. She had gone through a lot in her past. She had she's been sober for, almost 70 months, had a lot of crazy stories, and people connected with her right away. So once I start pulling the story out of her and I start sharing it in the group, trying to understand how she's looking for me to help her, I'm also highlighting her journey for the rest of the people that are in the audience. And they'll start following her, she'll start following them, they start developing a relationship, and then you become the person that helped them, that made them the star of the show that day, and that develops a deeper relationship with you. Okay? So try that out. I guess the steps would be first 5 to 10 minutes of your live session, pick 3 to 5 people, go with the lower end to start until you get the hang of this. Pick 3 people that you can start to understand who they are, build a picture about them, highlight what they're getting stuck on and their successes, because they're going to come back to your next live session too, and you can bring them up again. They'll be a returning character on another episode on your live. So try that out. Let people become the star of your show. I'm sorry, guys. I'm still getting over a cold here. I'm going to wipe my nose. But, excuse me. Take the opportunity to make them the star of your show. They're going to come back for additional episodes down the road. Ask some questions, help them out with where they're getting stuck, and then keep bringing them up as return characters. So try that on. It's the beautiful part about what I'm talking about here today is if you do it like this, they're not just engaging with you for one episode, one live session. They're going to engage with you for multiple. They're going to send you DMs. They're going to ask how to develop a deeper relationship with you, at which time you can invite them to your community where you can get to know them even better. Okay, so that's how I would describe the answer to the first question. Let's move on to question number 2. Number 2, when you're wanting to test something for your community, how do you do it and how do you measure the results? This is another kind of vague question, so I'm not sure exactly how people were crafting this question and what they were hoping to get out of this, but I'm going to do my best here. So let's say I post something within my community. Okay, so a community post. Now let's back up even further. Okay, so let's say that there's a topic or a potential mini course that I'm thinking about creating. Let's use the example of personal branding. Personal branding was a topic that I brought up in the community multiple times. Then what I did was I put a post up and I asked people, is this something that you're interested in? To which I got a response. It validated the fact that there are people in the community that are looking for that information. Then at that time, Ashby and I were running a live cast. So that's a podcast style live session on TikTok. That's where this all kind of began. I'll tell you that story in another episode. But I would take that topic to the live cast and then see how people responded to that. On a live cast, it's all recorded, so you can then download the entire video, which can act like a training session. You can upload that to YouTube. You can make it a part of a course, whatever you want to do with it. Either way, you now have content on that topic. Then you can come back, follow up on that community post, put a poll up, see how people are responding to it. And that's what I would typically do. I would then ask for feedback in the comments section. The poll is really it's going to be your kind of, it worked, it didn't work. The feedback in the comment section is going to give you more detailed feedback from what people are getting out of it. But that would be a very simple response to this question if you're looking for testing of topics, subjects, or different offers. Question number 3. If you were to speak to yourself a year ago about where you are today, what would you tell yourself? This is such an interesting question, and I've thought a little bit about how I would answer this, but I think I'm just going to kind of roll with how I'm feeling in the moment. So if I were to hit rewind a year ago today, I was working probably about 14 to 16 hours a day. I had begun paying attention to TikTok, but not posting. I had not purchased a course or mentorship or anything. I was more just kind of paying attention to what was going on. I saw a lot of people making a lot of money, feeling a little bit jealous, not really sure where to start. But I think if I had a time machine and I could go back to a year ago today, I would say, Scott, start right now and just start. Like, just start documenting the journey. Really, that's what I'm doing here, guys. Like, I am answering questions from the community, and I've probably stumbled my way through the first 2 questions. I felt that as I was recording this. I don't plan on editing this. And the reason why is I want to be able to come back and listen to this later and just see where I was 6 months ago, 12 months ago, how it felt, how much I've grown. I want to be able to see those stepping stones. And even though this entire session has felt herky-jerky and a little bit all over the place, and really I feel like somewhat ill-prepared, I'm looking forward to taking a moment 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 18, 24 months from now, listening to this episode again and saying, whoa, wow, look at how far I've come. And that would be the advice I'd give to myself if I could back up a year ago, is just start. If nothing else, you are going to trip, you are going to fall, but it's all going to be part of the process, and it stacks on top of each other like stepping stones to wherever the next best version of yourself is going to be. So hopefully that helps someone today with wherever you might be at. The best piece of advice I've ever gotten has been just start. So if you're feeling this, that's what I'm going to say to you today. Just start wherever you are, make it messy, be okay with that, and just move forward. And with that, that's the end of the questions for this week's episode. If you guys would like to submit questions for next week's episode of Drop It Like It's Scott, go to the community at www.skool.com/monetized life. If you're not a part of the community yet, go ahead and ask to be added to the community, and you'll see a ton of different things going on in there. And just look for the post that says, submit your question for the next episode of Drop It Like It's Scott. And until then, we'll see you next week.